It's funny how life can feel like a book you didn't mean to pick up. You're flipping through the pages, not sure where the story's going, and then bam, something clicks and you're hooked. That's how it was for Evelyn Harper, a 60-year-old retiree who found herself staring down the barrel of an empty calendar. Retirement was supposed to be golden, right? Endless mornings with coffee, maybe a little gardening, some travel if the budget allowed. But for Evelyn, it felt more like standing at the edge of a cliff, wondering what came next. She'd spent 30 years as a high school math teacher, her days filled with lesson plans, grading papers, and the chatter of teenagers. It was exhausting, sure, but it gave her purpose. When she retired last spring, the silence was deafening. Her husband, Tom, was still working part-time at the hardware store, and her daughter, Claire, was off in Vancouver with a family of her own. Evelyn's days stretched out, long and shapeless, like a sweater that didn't fit anymore. She tried knitting, binge-watching cooking shows, even reorganizing the pantry twice, but nothing stuck. She was drifting and she knew it. That's when she saw the flyer at the community center. Tucked on a bulletin board between ads for yoga classes and a lost cat, it read, Silver Readers, Book Club, Rediscover Yourself Through Self-Help Books. Ages 50 plus, every Thursday, 7 p.m. Evelyn snorted. Self-help books? She wasn't one for touchy-feely nonsense. She liked numbers, logic, things that added up. But the flyer promised tea and homemade cookies and, well, she was desperate for something to do. So she jotted down the details, figuring she'd go once and never return. That Thursday, Evelyn stepped into the community center's meeting room clutching a worn copy of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, the club's first book. The room smelled of chamomile tea and fresh-baked shortbread. About a dozen people milled around, most in their 50s and 60s, chatting over paper cups. Evelyn felt a flicker of nerves. She wasn't great at small talk, and these people looked, well, friendlier than she felt. New face, a voice boomed. A woman with silver curls and a bright red scarf strode over, hand outstretched. I'm Marjorie, club president. You must be Evelyn. Grab a cookie and tell us about yourself. Evelyn mumbled something about being recently retired and sat near the back, hoping to blend in. The group was a mix: Marjorie, a former nurse with a laugh like a foghorn; Raj, a quiet accountant who'd lost his wife 2 years ago; Linda, a bubbly dog groomer who seemed to know everyone; and Carlos, a retired mechanic with a penchant for quoting poetry. They were all so different, yet here they were, diving into a book about living in the moment. The first meeting was awkward for Evelyn. Marjorie asked everyone to share a life intention inspired by the book, and Evelyn froze. I don't know, she admitted, cheeks burning. I'm just here for the cookies. The room chuckled, and Marjorie winked, saying, That's a start. But something about that night stuck with her. Maybe it was the way Raj spoke softly about finding peace after grief, or how Linda admitted she felt stuck in her job but dreamed of opening a pet bakery. Evelyn went home and actually read a chapter of The Power of Now. It wasn't life-changing, but it made her think, what do I want? She hadn't asked herself that in years. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn kept showing up. The club moved on to Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, a book about embracing creativity. Evelyn found herself arguing with Carlos over whether fear was really the enemy of creativity, as the book claimed. Fear keeps you safe, she said, arms crossed. You can't just throw caution out the window. Carlos leaned back, stroking his mustache. But what's caution keeping you from, Evelyn? What's the worst that could happen if you tried something new? She didn't have an answer, but the question nagged her. At home, she started noticing things: her old sewing machine in the attic, the basket of yarn she'd abandoned after a failed scarf project. She'd always loved making things as a kid, stitching doll clothes or weaving friendship bracelets. Could she do that again? Was there still room for that kind of joy? The book club became her anchor. Every Thursday, she'd sit with this motley crew, debating books like The Happiness Project or Daring Greatly. She learned things about her new friends. Marjorie had taken up salsa dancing at 62, Raj was teaching himself guitar, and Linda was sketching logos for her dream pet bakery. They were all chasing something, and it made Evelyn feel less alone in her drift. One night, over lemon bars, the group discussed The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. Marjorie challenged everyone to say yes to one scary thing that week. Evelyn's stomach twisted. She didn't like risks, but when she got home, she pulled out her sewing machine. It was dusty, the pedal creaky, but it still worked. She spent hours stitching a simple tote bag from scraps of old denim. It wasn't perfect, wonky seams, a slightly crooked handle, but holding it felt like a small victory. The next week, she brought the bag to the club. "I made this," she said, half expecting laughter. Instead, Linda gasped, "Evelyn, that's adorable. You could sell these." Raj nodded, saying, "My sister runs a craft stall at the farmer's market. Bet she'd love these." Evelyn brushed it off, but the idea took root. A side hustle? At her age, it sounded ridiculous, yet the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She had time, a skill, and a house full of fabric scraps. Plus, the book club's energy was contagious. Everyone was cheering each other on, like a team of underdogs in some feel-good movie. She started small, sewing tote bags and pot holders in the evenings. Tom, her husband, raised an eyebrow but helped her set up a folding table for cutting fabric. She named her little venture Silver Stitches, a nod to her age and the book club. Her first sale was to Marjorie, who bought a bag for $20 and paraded it around like it was haute couture. Word spread. Linda's dog grooming clients wanted bags. Raj's sister offered Evelyn a corner of her market stall. It wasn't all smooth sailing. Evelyn's first market day was a disaster. Rain soaked half her inventory, and she barely broke even. She came home soggy and defeated, ready to quit. But the next Thursday, the book club rallied around her. Carlos quoted Daring Greatly. "Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation." Marjorie offered to help with waterproof packaging. Raj suggested an online shop. Linda, ever the cheerleader, said, "Evelyn, you're living your eyes moment. Keep going." And she did. Over the next few months, Silver Stitches grew. Evelyn learned to use an old tablet to list her items on Etsy, fumbling through tutorials with Claire's help over video calls. She wasn't rich, but she was busy sewing, planning, even dreaming up new designs like quilted coasters or aprons. The money was nice, but the real payoff was the spark she felt, like she'd rediscovered a piece of herself she'd forgotten. The book club kept meeting, tackling new books and cheering each other's wins. Raj played his first guitar song, a shaky but heartfelt rendition of Wonderwall. Linda finally rented a space for her pet bakery. And Evelyn, she was no longer adrift. She had a purpose, a community, and a stack of fabric waiting to be turned into something new. So, what's the takeaway? First, retirement can be a new chapter, not an ending. Studies from AARP show 70% of retirees find joy in exploring new hobbies or side gigs. Second, community matters. The National Institute on Aging says social connections boost mental health in older adults. Third, self-help books might sound cheesy, but they can spark real change. Evelyn's proof of that. And finally, saying yes to something scary, even at 60, can lead to places you never imagined. What do you think, folks? Ever found inspiration in an unexpected place like a book club or a new hobby? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories.